Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that's as controversial as it is crucial: symbols in our military institutions, specifically at West Point, the nation's oldest military academy. Recently, headlines erupted when Pete Hegseth, Trump's Secretary of the Army, restored a portrait of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. But this isn't just any portrait. It depicts Lee in uniform, with a black slave crouched beside him, carrying his gear. What does this say about our values? Now let's unpack this. Robert E. Lee was a West Point graduate, yes, but he was also a man who led a bloody rebellion to preserve slavery. That's why Congress established the Naming Commission in 2021 to ensure the military would no longer glorify Confederate leaders. So why bring Lee back into the spotlight? The commission oversaw renaming bases like Fort Bragg and removing statues that celebrated Confederates as heroes. The goal was clear: U.S. institutions should honor those who fought for the country, not against it. By restoring Lee's portrait, especially one that depicts an enslaved man, Hegseth is sending a disturbing message. Is this an isolated act? Not at all. Hegseth and others in Trump's circle have consistently sought to elevate Confederate symbols. We've seen Confederate names restored, flags reintroduced into military ceremonies, and arguments made that these figures are part of America's honorable tradition. But is that really true? This fits into a much older pattern. After the Civil War, Southern elites and sympathetic groups promoted what became known as the Lost Cause myth. They painted the Confederacy as noble, downplayed slavery as the cause of the war, and celebrated leaders like Lee as honorable men rather than traitors. Confederate statues, portraits, and flags were not put up right after the war. They actually surged decades later, especially during the early 1900s and the Civil Rights era. They were weapons in a cultural battle, designed to remind Black Americans of their place and to resist racial equality. By restoring Lee's portrait now, Hegseth is echoing that very same playbook. He's telling cadets and the nation that Confederate nostalgia still has a place of honor in U.S. military culture. The message this sends is deeply corrosive. To Black cadets and soldiers, it tells them that the Army is willing to honor men who fought to keep their ancestors enslaved. To the nation, it suggests that Confederate imagery still outweighs the values of equality and loyalty to the Constitution. And to the world, it projects an America that struggles to confront its own history of racism and rebellion. Symbols matter because they shape culture. When cadets walk past that portrait, what story are they being told? That Lee was a great leader worth admiring? Or that slavery and treason can be excused if you frame them as tradition? That is not preserving history. It's distorting history to fit a political agenda. Legally, Hegseth may argue he's not violating the Naming Commission's mandate, but the larger truth is clear. He's undermining the spirit of the law, and he's continuing a long tradition of using Confederate symbols to rewrite history. So let's ask ourselves, what values do we want to project? And how do we confront our history? Because the decisions made in places like West Point echo far beyond its walls. Thanks for watching, and let's keep this conversation going.